for $9.99 a month.
Good morning. 10:49 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on this Thursday, November 13th, 2025. I'm XRP Future Millionaire, and I reside in the great state of Michigan. So, see a lot of comments about the Fank pump. Not necessarily. Not necessarily what we talked about yesterday. If it pushes up, if we shoot past that $2.37, shoot all the way up to $2.55, if that scenario plays out, regardless of if we push out that fast, we still have to validate the back test. There was opportunity yesterday, came on yesterday, talked about the fact that if we were going to pump, it was now or never. Talked about it extremely to the point. And the live yesterday came out with the video yesterday of a couple minutes even, so that it would help further push that point. It was only 2 minutes. Some took the time to watch it, some didn't. We made that push out. Now, when everybody's sitting there, probably, oh boy, it's come up, it's done this, it's done that, the Knuffins. Well, we understand what needs to happen. Now we're going to see if this is worth a something or if this is worth a nothing. And the way you determine that is if we can backtest this $2.37. I believe I put it in the title today perfectly, so there was no debating. XRP holders, XRP bullish continuation to 265 if backtest holds at $2.37. Inverse head and shoulders set up. Now, if this doesn't hold, well, then we have an entirely different ball game. But as of right now, to come on here and be like, oh, well, it's over. We don't know if it's over. We don't even know if it started. All we've done so far is had to push up. We had what we assumed was going to happen yesterday with the market reopening, or the government reopening. I don't necessarily think that's a bullish sentiment in itself, honestly. But we'll see what kind of thesis plays out here as the week ends. I don't necessarily like that they opened it late Wednesday night going into a Thursday when we only have 24 hours after, or about 48 hours until the end of the trading week. These artificial pumps are never fun. That's why I was hoping that the government shutdown would end after the push-up that we initially made, and then you would get some kind of pullback to 247, then the announcement that could have surged it. But that's something to pay attention to. There's a couple other things that are to be at least acknowledged. As we know, some of the legacy era wallets for Bitcoin, which all that means is they were the day one, basically, Bitcoin wallets, or year one, or way back in the day. They've continuously been selling. Now, I see a regurgitated one that's showing a 1.5 billion sale on Bitcoin from a legacy wallet. That was already out. That's the exact same one I shared a week and a half ago that people are starting to share now. But that had already happened last week. So that is not something new. So disregard when you see social media sharing that. That is the same $1.5 billion profit from what I was sharing at the beginning of last week and the end of the week before that. So that is nothing new. So don't worry about that. There are more people that are selling, but this is the typical rotation. So if you got in and you were able to sniff out that inverse head and shoulders, at least the initial play up, this is the part that makes it interesting. This is where we've had it. Is it going to be a resistance here? And do we rotate all the way back down? Or can we now back test this formation? And I think what's happening here is we've formed ourselves that we have to at least acknowledge this megaphone pattern. We have to at least acknowledge this. And that would still get us up to 265 or 268. But that would require, hear me out, if it's in a megaphone, it would require, again, hear me out. I'm just a messenger. I'm not forcing the market to do all this. Although sometimes people are like, Tom, I mean, you say you don't have the know, but how in the hell could you possibly know where these are going to go to the exact points like this? And it's like, well, there's a reason why I have 6 different charts and I come on every single day regardless. And my face, by the way, look how nice it looks today. I'm not, for anybody who's new, is going to be like, okay, it's your face. Well, I had first degree burn all here. You guys got to see the healing process over the last week or so. The last 2 days were painful because I had to peel the skin off, and that hurt like a motherfucker. So, especially on the face. But it's it's looking a lot better today, honestly. It's healed up nicely. All that loose skin came off now, all the dead skin. The appearance of the first degree. Now, I may not be able to grow hair in certain spots because it's still damaged here really deeply, but here and all that. So I'm happy about that. Um, very happy about that. So everybody who had good vibes for the first degree burn. And if you don't know, I had the coffee maker. I don't drink coffee, but I make it for Julie. And the end piece, like where you put the filter in with the coffee grounds, it snapped off, and there was coffee that was pushing through it, and it bounced off the table. And I turned my face, and so probably should have turned this way, seeing that I can't see out of this side, but I can see. Anyhow, it worked out like it was supposed to. Yeah, the notifications are going to be hit and miss. I didn't get one myself, so I created 3 of them myself. So, Mrs. Stott, you got the 3 that I sent out, and I'm assuming they look something like live now, um, live active discussion or live discussion. I shared it in 3 different fashions. You got all 3 because you are part of not only the public, you are subscribed to Tom's channel or to my channel, and you are also a paid subscriber, so you did get all 3. I take collagen and use a facial moisturizer every day. Got to take care of your skin. Absolutely, Dave. Absolutely, Dave. The thing that helped me a lot was I used aloe from my aloe plant, and I used the aloe right after the burn. And then, believe it or not, Bactin is a really good thing to use when you burn because it takes the sting out, but it also cleans it. Well, I mean, it didn't really take the sting out; it added sting in this case. But everything I did, and then when I would shave, I would do it very light the first couple of days. But the shaving, despite what you might think, actually helped because it helped pull off some of the loose, and that hurt like a motherfucker too. Excuse my French. But if you've ever had first, second degree, I've had up to third degree in certain spots, or second, bad second, but not on my face. So I mean, if you've ever had that, the scaly feeling when you have to take off the new skin that's connected to the old burnt tissue. Ooh, that's when in the hospitals you'll see them use the little like scalpel and they'll slice it like like you're taking scales off a fish. That's the part that hurts. Ooh. Um, oh, burn everything. Says I got everything off of Uphold and going into crack. And thanks again, brother. You are welcome. That's where I encourage. That's where I like. And if you're in Kraken, do the Kraken Pro. It's like $4.99 a month. I really should share the link to Kraken. I'm very bad at it. I promise in the future I'll put it in my video description below. It's not here right now, but just so everybody has it. If you want to have a tier 1 exchange, that's where I buy my XDC. As you know, I did the weekly purchase yesterday of another $250, up to 205,000 XDC. I have my Algo, XDC, XLM. What else do I have on there? SHX. I feel like I'm missing one. I could be wrong though. But right now we're kind of wasting a little bit of time as we get into this morning. I really appreciate all of you and everybody asking about my son too. He's doing a lot better today. Fever broke yesterday. We had his conferences. They went fantastic. Like he's a remarkable little man. He's nonverbal. He's autistic, special needs, but he's even like the teacher. He's a remarkable little man. He's very, very well behaved. He's very loving. He's got a kind heart, and he's very welcomed by everybody there. So his stuffiness is clearing up. Everything's getting better. They've noticed a huge change in him too over the last month and a half, and that's when we switched off the Poly V. The doctors give him. He's got a feeding tube in his stomach, a G tube. He still eats some by mouth, but his nutrients. So he was getting Poly V, and we were like, I read through all of the stuff after a while because I just didn't like a few things that I was starting to see. So I looked deeper into these ingredient lists, and on the Poly V Sol. So if you ever get prescribed this, it's actually chemical compounds that basically mimic natural herbs in the environment. So they're giving you a chemical compound of herbs that are like vitamin D3 and all this other stuff, but it's a chemical compound instead of the actual herb. So me and Julie were like, no, we're not doing this no more. So what we ended up doing was we looked for the actual vitamins that were herb compounds that were the exact same things that they wanted him to take. Plus, what I know too. But It was just, and ever since we did that, even the teachers yesterday were like, we're not exactly sure what changed, but they talked about how it's like, brr, he would go, brr, 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 you do that, and you're like, and he stopped doing that. He's starting to try to say fuller things now. Like he goes, yeah, a lot more. You guys will hear him in the background, and he says a couple different things, not a lot, but he's starting more focused, more involved, less emotional, less like nervous, a lot of things, and they don't know what to attribute it to, but I do. It's the real vitamins and getting away from that nonsense. That's a big factor. It really is. It's a big factor. And yes, it's got its iodine in it. He gets his coil silver. I sneak into there and all this other good stuff. Um, but yeah, it's a big thing. We notice a big yeah. So 205,000 XDC, 50,000 Algo, 20,000 XLM, 210,000 Stronghold. That's what I have on Kraken. And I'm continuing to build in, and I don't care what anybody thinks. I'm building into XDC until it hits 10 cents, $250 a week. Yes, I know it could bring my average up. I don't care. I don't care. Having 205,000, I'm just looking at it and saying we're going to do this. So, yeah, unfortunately, Nick, our Juice, and thanks for being in Tom's Army for your first month with the emoji badge and me being abducted by aliens. But I know a lot about that stuff. I've taught myself for decades. And I used to take deeper classes back in the day with nutrition and things to go deeper into it, like holistic healing, just a lot of stuff. But you're absolutely right about that. Parents do know best. But then again, a lot of parents are ill-informed, and I don't want to get into it. Joseph Euler, good morning, and thanks for being in Tom's over 6+ months with the XP Predictor. Also, gifting a sub. Unbelievable generosity by you, Mr. Euler. If more people embodied your spirit, this world would be a great place. The pay it forward mentality, in fact, I love it. You give, you get, you return the favor, and then you help others along the way, not just monetarily, but otherwise. Vanguard doesn't offer the new ETF. Interesting. I do want to put that load ticker symbol on here now, XRPC. Because it's available today for us to see. Now, what you're going to notice here, again, guys, what do I always talk about when we get into these things? You get these artificial rise ups, and you never get taken in the beginning, okay? Ever. Whenever you see, never. I'll say it again, and I'll say it again, and I'll say it again and again and again. You never get taken for these in the beginning, ever. You will never have as much buzz as day one because everybody goes and jumps off a cliff. It's already down 3.6%. I mean, I don't know when it reverses, but we have no history. None. It should get a straight down to start. Like, we don't know where fair value is on the Canary Capital ETF. Well, I don't know. Is this symbol even available on my JP Morgan? I don't know. But I'll be damned if we're not going to cover it day after day after day, because that's interesting. Now, the other thing is like I fully expect everybody this price to come to 237. Fully expect it. Nick Morales, thanks for being in Town's Arm for for a very trusted mod in here and in the Telegram. And he says Webull has XRPC, and also he does a very special job in the Telegram. Has his own little section. He's the technical advisor, and he really goes above and beyond. Works a full-time job just like Scotty Trade. So show some grace to those two in there, especially when they're sharing charts out the yin yang and ideas about the wick off and things that we wouldn't even consider deeper than just all of that by the numbers, let's say. And Dr. McLovin, congratulations on getting that gifted sub from Joseph Euler. Thanks for being in Tom's Army now for your first month with that emoji badge and me being abducted by aliens. Remember, whether you join Tom's Army on your own accord or you get a gifted sub, make sure you look at your perks. There's a link to the Telegram. It's a community-wide Telegram. I am very active in there along with everybody else. And there's just so much cool stuff in there. There's just so much stuff in there. What was I trying to find? I was trying to find, I don't remember why I went on my phone. What was I looking for? Shit. I don't know. So make sure you look at that on YouTube. It got approved yesterday, so my updated perks are on here, which it's really just the addition of that, so you don't have to go search for it because it's a pain in the ass. But you see the exclusive Telegram, you'll just click on that and it'll give you a link. But I don't want to like open up this whole thing so that people, but there's the Telegram. See, it's the exclusive Telegram. It'll show it right away. Let me, I don't like that showing just because, and then you get the shout out. I try to shout people out, the members only chat rooms, but we don't do that because I decided long ago we're not just going to do members only chat because everybody has a voice, even if you can't afford to be in Tom's Army. There's no reason you shouldn't have a voice in the chat. So I did not follow through with that one. That was one they suggested, and I said no. So I never turned it on. Let's see. John Bugathorpe, good morning, and thanks for being in Tom's Army for over 1 year with the I Told You So badge, and also being a very, very important part of this audience. Got to know you a lot over the last couple of years, which is really nice. Scotty Trades, thanks for being in Tom's Army for your second month with the Dusty Shadows Crypto News, and also a very trusted mod in here and in the Telegram says Bitcoin had notable price decline immediately after the launch of spot Bitcoin ETFs in the U.S. January 24, dropping from a post-approval peak of around 49 to 39,000 within 2 weeks. 20. I 100% agree with that. On average, after an ETF approval, the asset drops up to 50 to 60%. So I am not going to be surprised by dropping in movements. And I just have an honest question to ask everybody. Have you noticed a difference in delivery? Not necessarily the high energy not being there because it's still there, but the not in your face as much, but also the fact that I'm being more direct with the analysis. Like I'm not a financial advisor, but this is what I'm doing and this is what I think is going to happen. And if you disagree, that's fine, but I'm still going to show you to the best of my understanding. Instead of saying it's this or that, I'm going to say, I think this is what's going to happen. However, if this does break down the pattern, this is where we go. Then there's no debating it. So I'm trying to evolve this a little bit more going into 2026 where there's less thinking, more clarity. So hopefully it's coming across that way the last week or so, because that's my way of being able to take emotion out of it for all of us, not just myself. Aaron Reynolds, good morning. Mo, welcome in, and thanks for being in Tom's Army for over 2 years with the XP 589 Moon Badge. I'm just curious if it comes across that way. Defined, I still have to answer your question. I apologize. I was more in tune with my son last night because I was watching his just his breathing and everything, making sure that he was on the right track, which he is. And then he woke up at like 10:30 and stayed up until 5. So I went to bed around, I think Julie came out in the living room 4:30ish, 5. And then I went in the bedroom for a few hours. But I do know I have your question to answer still. And thanks for being in Tom's Army for over 6 months with the XP Predictor, along with Joseph Euler and the Cannabis Podcast. Also defines a very trusted mod in here in the Telegram. Very important part of what we do. Puts out the weekly edition. Oh, it's such a great, our magazine. He says, hey, everyone, hit that like on the way in. Consider subscribing and joining Tom's Army for the best technical analysis on YouTube every day. You're not in the Telegram wallet. You're missing out. I agree. That Telegram is fire. And it's not because of me. It's everybody else. The next person who joins, in fact, will be lucky number 500. 500 people will be in this Telegram. That is insane. I was afraid to get it to 50. And now we're almost at 10 times that amount. But we are really a very dedicated community. There is a nice newsletter out here too today. That's the only reason I went into the Big House edition, but there is a nice newsletter. I encourage you guys to read this. I mean, I guess it's a newsletter because he put it's kind of out like this is phenomenal. All I know is you guys do a lot of good work in here, and it's just remarkable, some of the stuff you put in here. Calculated and Smart Leverage with MQT talks about some of these leverage trades, parameters. We talked about it yesterday, how you could take that trade out and then make sure it backtests to 237 if you're waiting for confirmation, or if you wanted to have the initial run out, you could have did it from 233 or 238. Or immediately when it pushed over. I mean, there's a lot of different ways to do it. I personally want to wait and see how this back test plays out. And if it holds and it looks like it's going to hold, I'm going to make a play here as well. But we'll see what happens. A lot of stuff to learn here. I have my pager section where I just share my own stuff. Whoops. Today, well, I was going to share before the live, but I kind of touched it, went about it in the 60-second short. So, yeah, for sure, the shout out to Scotty Trades, which is MQT. and the Telegram, which is his own section we just showed. That's Scotty Trade section, FYI. And then Nick has his own in the technical advisor section. So Nick and Scotty are invaluable. Invaluable. Scotty Trades, aka MQT. Yes, hit that like button. It's free. I love that. I love that. Big shocker, XP monthly still in that bull flag consolidation. I swear every time I even look, it's basically the same thing with wild looking wicks that scare people. Absolutely. We are still set in this formation. I mean, XRP has a chance here to have a very big breakout. It's just got to finish. I would like to see it properly finish this back test. Like, to me, it's a very important thing for XRP to do this. I know for some it might not matter, but for me, it's important to start seeing this validity. If we can come down here and validate this, we have a nice engulfing candle in the hour. I don't think there's any reason to rush in. Our release pushed way back down from overbought. I think it's doing exactly what it needs to. And if we start seeing the 237 bounce, I think that's a better than not chance. And then your support would have to be at about 231. You take it out at 237 if you're taking a gamble. Obviously, understand what you're doing. And then you end up coming down and you look at about $2.31 as your support structure. And the reason you would look at that, now we can change this because it's doing exactly what we were hoping for. And it's what we talked about yesterday. The reason why you look for this for the validity, it's not just a short-term micro pattern breakout, because there's 3 different ones we can look, actually 4. But this is the part of the pattern we're in now. So if you start looking at this as a shoulder, you look at this as a head, this rotates back down, bounces out, you're going to form another shoulder, and then you're going to end up seeing that back test, and then you get that bounce, and guess what comes up next? 255, yes. Yes, 255 would be the next resistance. So if you get a bounce down and you do rotate, you're going to end up coming, let's just say you do this, you'd rotate up here, and then you're going to have a decision to make. Do we break out of this, or is this shorter pattern that is trying to set up, which is a longer look, shoulder, head, shoulder, and then you start to mimic it, right? You mimic this pattern, and then you start to get validation. This tap down here, if it comes to 237, is just the back test. And you could even come farther, but if you want to look at it like this, it's just the back testing. We're just back testing the initial breakouts. So I think it's not just, hey, we're guessing here. I think it's more than guessing, because then if it doesn't hold that, we know. That means 255 just couldn't break through, and then it comes back down to $1.99. Do we want that? No. I'll be honest. No, we don't. Not yet. And I'll tell you why. You want this back test 237 to surpass 255 and ultimately get rejected at 265. Then you want it to end up forming almost like a megaphone. And then this pattern could take place. This would be to me, the most bullish pattern we can have is buy resist or sell resistance, buy support, buy resistance, sell support, wait a minute. Sell resistance, buy support. Sell resistance, buy support. Back around, sell resistance. Confirm the megaphone with the third hit on each side. Spiral out for a new alt season. That's the most bullish scenario we can take, because this would give you all this top side liquidity, form all the bottom side liquidity. Through here would be major disbelief. It's over. This cycle shit. It's never going to happen, right? No, I'm serious. And this would literally get everybody, their heads would be going through the freaking brick wall. Imagine it does this and then it dropped off in a series of a week or two, 29, 30% into mid-November, late November. Oh, this would be beautiful. I love that juice. Head, shoulders, knees and toes, eyes and ears and nose and mouth. My son loves that. He used to love listening to that song. Julie used to sing it to him all the time. But that, I think, is the most extremely bullish scenario, that we end up putting a megaphone in here. Do you guys disagree with me? It might be confusing because we have a little different trade bias, Miss Stat. You are given all options to make an informed decision with your... Absolutely. Absolutely. Even a wick to $1.84 would be good to... Absolutely. I would love to see it come down a little bit farther, Nick, and then it takes until about here. I'm not going to lie. I would love to see it come back here and take until, how far is this? Some people can say, oh my God, we got to keep going through. Gobble, gobble. We'll go to my birthday. December 17th, I would love for it to do something like this. Honestly. I would like to see it take out that $1.77 to $1.82. I don't know how long it's going to take. The point is I want this to form this megaphone. Because this would be a bullish megaphone. And if anybody knows about a bullish megaphone, this would bring us up to 384 like it was nothing. If this broke. Oh my God, I can't wait. The liquidity that's forming below, I believe, to form the proper liquidity, Mrs. Stott. And thank you for being in here, Mrs. Stott. And I think I seen Mr. Stott in here too, did I not? I don't know. But I know Syrian did mention this, but I thought I seen Mrs. and Mr. Stott. But thank you both for being in Tons 3+ months with the XP Meteor. And Syrian, thanks for being a very trusted mod in here and in the Telegram. And also in Tom's Army for over 1 year with the I Told You So Bad, said someone mentioned there was more liquid lower because before going up. That is technically true. There is more liquidity, but we would fill out that lower liquidity pool if we came down to 237 and formed these long trades back up and then ended up having a dump back. There we'd have more bottom side liquidity, but there's no doubt about it. We're forming this lower liquidity. Zero question. You're right about that. And we can take a look into it, but you're not wrong. In the Fear and Greed Index, does anybody remember a couple weeks ago when I said I expect it to be back around 12? Does anybody remember that? Or maybe even lower? So now we're at 15. Oh, Scotty, we got issues. That you're not wrong about that. There's not anything about that. You have shown me so much over the last 6 months. You're now just Super B, man. T Perella, are you talking to me, Tommy? If you are, I appreciate it. But also, Scotty Trades and Nick, they give the unbiased real info as well in the Telegram and on here. They're more than willing to talk to everybody. So I think it's more than just me, to be honest. I think it's more than just me. I think it was nice when it was just me, but I think it's a miracle now with what we have going on. It's a miracle. Because now you can listen to what I say, but then you can bounce it off of other people that actually understand at the similar level. They may be humble and say, oh, I don't know it as much, or I don't get it as much, or I might not make a choice as much, or I might not be able to hit the... Well, that's that might be valid, but that doesn't take away from the fact they know. Our emotions might be on different levels because we're at different points. I like to think that I have a little bit more... I can make different kind of decisions because I have to deal with a lot more pressure. No offense to the two of them, but having an audience of over 47,000 people, now it puts more pressure just by virtue. So now I have to deal with those emotions, and it's taken me 4.5, 5 years almost to get to this point to where I don't let the emotion of just the everyday person get into my way. Or feel like I've got to knock somebody else down, because that's something that's definitely changed over the last month or so. I a couple weeks even, that I don't see a reason to even do that. It's not within God's divine plan. If I start putting somebody else down, well, then the focus gets taken off what we're trying to do with the togetherness. And then we start saying what somebody else isn't doing. Well, that's not the right or the virtuous way. The virtuous way would be there's 151 people here. Hit that like button. We have 85 likes. Show the love. You don't want to be a taker, be a giver. I'm not asking for any monetary. Just hit that like button. If you believe in confidence, hit the like button. Get us to 100. Get us to 100 likes. Let other people see this. It's phenomenal how many people are here, and it's phenomenal how many people are choosing to trust this community when we're starting to have the breakdown so that they can see real information. But anyhow, it's all divine plan here if we can stay together. And that's the hardest part. Can we stay together? That's going to be the hard part. We'll look into the long-short ratio here in a minute. And we'll look into some other things as well. But I first want to get into the liquidity map. Because it's still under my belief that we do have liquidity above as well that we could tap. Even before we tap this lower liquidity pool. So... let's take this into different time frames. So this is in the monthly, but I don't want to look at Ethereum right now. I would like to look at XRP first. We can look at the other ones, but yes. Don't be a hater, be a participator. I love it. Yes, the Cannabis Podcast, and thanks for being in Town Zone for over 6 months with the Expert Predictor. Also has a beautiful station where he talks about holistic healing, talks a lot about the cannabis plant, and a lot of other things, but not in the we're all going to get hot. No, no, not about getting stoned. The real benefits of it. That's where we get the short change. So understand the cannabis plant for what it is. It kind of rubs me the wrong way when somebody talks about it as marijuana and talks about it as different things, how they want to label it. No, no, it's cannabis. It's a plant, and there's a lot more to it. We could use cannabis, just the actual leftovers after you cut the flower and the beauty off of it. You can use it for hemp paper. You don't have to cut any trees down. If you ever use bamboo, you can use hemp in replacement of it. Like, you don't have to ruin some of these different things. It was put there for a reason. Like, we don't need to cut down trees. We can use the leftovers from the actual cannabis plant after we cut it down. It's the truth. You're not going to get much things that are stronger than the actual stem or the actual structure of a hemp plant. You can make oils and medicines, and you can make hashes and so many different things. So many different things. But it gets politicized, and it gets the false bravado of being a Schedule One drug still, which is phenomenal that they still can say that and people believe it. Hey, this is the same as heroin. Okay. Anyhow, let's get back. I digress. But if you want to learn more, make sure you follow the Cannabis Podcast, as he's around 500 subscribers himself, which is phenomenal on YouTube. It's not easy to get around. But anyhow, this inverse head and shoulders seems set up. We're just looking for this validation, in my opinion. And validation doesn't need to come all the way to 237. I just think that's a line in the sand you got to draw for the back test. And if it doesn't hold, it doesn't hold, and then we can look from there. Liquidity, though, over the top, definitely some liquidity at the 270 level. Definitely some over the top if we can get past 255, near 258. A lot of liquidity, actually, for the short traders over the top. Let's see how the 2-week lines up, because we're going to have some of the short-term consolidation. See how you're creating some down here now at 214, maybe some down here at 242. But we still have, even in the smaller time frames, you can see this over leverage. There's obviously over leverage of shorts. The fact they can cause this kind 111 million to be liquidated at 258, even in the 2-weekly, tells me a lot of short trading is going on. There's way more liquidity on the top side, but that top side liquidity, if we got a rejection into a megaphone, because we get that third hit of resistance forming the resistance of the megaphone, then you need a rejection around 265 to 268. It could even overshoot to 272 or 274 and come back within. And then you would need that pull down. It would be anywhere under $2. It could start at $1.99, but I believe they would target $1.77 to $1.82. Therefore, creating a bullish megaphone. If it holds, we're going to shoot up to 389. There wouldn't even be any debate in my mind. But that's a big if. That's a big if. The Cannabis Podcast says, what's interesting is lots of countries legalizing, I'm assuming cannabis, are a lot of Ripple partners. Interesting. Now, we could look at that as devil's advocate, or we could look at that as a bigger agenda from our governments locally and therefore abroad. And it's been my understanding that the only reason they would legalize cannabis is because they would simultaneously make it illegal to bear arms while having cannabis. And now in the USA, they're actually making a proposal, and they've been trying to for a pretty long time, to make it illegal to own a firearm if you smoke cannabis. I said this 15 years, 20 years ago, back in 2008, when I first got my cannabis card, because I had a broken back and whatever. I was the first one who got it in Michigan in that first run of cards. Gave us a big advantage of growing, and yeah. Anyhow, I knew right then that that's what the zero, it wasn't a zero-sum game of just being able to, that's what they were going to do. And unfortunately, that's what they're doing now. So be careful. Be careful. In the weekly, you can see how we're starting. This is what I was talking about, Syrian. We're starting to form this lower liquidity now over the last week or so. Isn't it looking like a bearish megaphone? Well, you got to be careful with that. Would it be a bearish megaphone if we had a wick all the way down to $1.18 and then you had that big flag that built the megaphone? Now it seems like a bullish consolidation because we went from $1.18 all the way up to 280-ish, 275, back down. Technically, I mean, you could look at it both ways, but I'd be looking at this as a flag setup and now the megaphone forms. So I'm not necessarily going to call it a bearish megaphone. It would have to break that lower support structure for me to go down that road. I think it's designed like that, absolutely, because that wick is hidden on a lot of charts because it doesn't go down as far. But I think because of that wick flush, I'm not convinced that this would just break out. Now, am I 100% it's just going to go up? Nobody can be 100%. But that's why we try to set these patterns before things happen so that once it starts following the way of certain pattern setups, then we start to move on. I know a lot of people leave when I get into the nuts and bolts of information, which is amazing. This is the information you should die for. Like if you're a trader, this is what you need to know. Liquidity levels are there for a reason. You're starting to form them down here a little bit, but it doesn't necessarily make sense to just fall out right now. Let's go to Bitcoin and see, and then we'll go into the long short ratio over the last 24 hours just to see direction. So we won't go out to the 3 or 6 month because they always work like shit. Excuse my French, work like shilakis, shikaka, the shikaka, shataka. Bitcoin, not a lot of liquidation below or above in the smaller time frames. Like there's more above, believe me, than below. But when you get into the 2 week, it starts to illuminate it a little bit better, especially into the weekly now because of the volatility. So as you can see, a lot of localized volume down here, 97, 98, that's starting to build now. You've got some over the top, obviously all the way up. But now what makes it interesting is that lower liquidity. If we can get towards that 92K zone, but we're not forming it all yet. But you can see it's starting to contract down below, right? We're starting to contract here. We're starting to get in the smaller time frames a little bit of semblance that, hey, we're getting some lower liquidity starting to build pretty quickly. But with that being said, I still think overall, maybe we tap this. I don't know. But for Bitcoin, unless we're breaking down, we can still tap this higher liquidity. Now, I think I can go to 3 months and get away with it. The 6 month will just freeze, as you guys know. They'd never fixed it. It just says there's a error and then it reloads. It gives you an error. 3 months does it sometimes. Yeah, see. Well, maybe it'll load up on its own accord. Let's see. Isn't it amazing? So 3 months, you can see nothing. There's nothing below. Unless you get to that 90. Like, you have nothing down here. So makes more sense to come up into that 116 area where you've got localized, even in the 3 months. Look at all this volume. 300 million, 250, 290, 220, 180, 140. I mean, look at all that. Coming down here, 49 million, 60. You get some localized areas, but it's light. Then when you get down here, you're talking about, which is crazy, 95,000, 161,000. Like, look how low that volume is. So what we would suspect is we would take a ride up, add some more liquidity pool down here for Bitcoin, and then if it's done, it's done. But we'll see. We gotta see how this opens up. I'm not, like I said, I'm not doing nothing until XRP it's 237 and we can see how this reacts. That could be a major opportunity here developing. And to the 30 people who left during that information, that's fine. I'll see you later when it goes to exactly what we're saying and you're trying to figure out why you missed that information. You'll come back. You'll come back. It's just in the moment we don't have the attention span to learn, unfortunately. But you should want to know all of this. To be honest, I can't think of a single other station that does it this way. Not saying there's not others that do whatever they do in their own way, but I think we do things in a slightly different way to where there's nothing left for the imagination. I think we cook in this community, to be honest. I do think we cook in here. My yard now, thanks for being in Towns 3+ months with the XP Meteor. It's a shame. Yes, it is. And thanks for being the #1 top fan in this live. I appreciate it. Mr. Stott says they need a test like a breathalyzer for marijuana instead of the common testing done today. They don't need any kind of test for marijuana. I don't want any kind of overreach. You could never get an accurate test by blood or by breathalyzer for marijuana. They can always hype it up. That is, in my opinion, I don't want them to have any kind of testing. God's given right for us to, you know, why don't they have a breathalyzer for antidepressants and all of these like Clonopins and all these tranquilizers that they just let you drive on? But hey, what do I know? But I just don't like the government overreach in that regard. But then again, I don't drive, so it doesn't affect me because I can't see good enough. I can't see out of my left eye and yada yada. Um, that was actually my senior thesis paper to why it's not legal, and they have a prototype being used in Canada. Interesting, the cannabis podcast. No, Mr. Stott, I think you're right of what they're gonna do though. That's the problem. I honestly think you're right that they're probably gonna do some short form like that, either a breathalyzer or some quick something that they'll be able to just something stupid. But I don't disagree with you. That's the problem. I think you're actually right. I think you're right. Um, well, Mr. Trades, sounds like they want to make the can I even say that word on YouTube? I don't know. The career. We're not talking about a career. We're talking about a career, I guess. But yeah, I mean that's gonna be a part of it. You think all of the dude, there's a reason why all this mental insanity they do. It is. It's the truth. Um, yeah, unfortunately, Scotty, that's the truth. Once the seeds are more controlled, and it's starting to be, that's why they're letting the grows go to the big business now instead of the independent grower. It's hardly even worth growing marijuana anymore unless you're smoking it for yourself, which is I don't like to sell any of it. I'd rather just keep it all. I don't need the money. But there was a time when I was younger when it was like you'd be growing, you got 10 ounces or a half pound, a pound, and you're like, hey, I got to get rid of, half to three quarters of a pound just to live, or all of it for that matter. I spent a series of like, when me and Julie first got together, 5 years we didn't even buy cannabis at all because we couldn't afford it. So I was one of those people. I love to smoke. It helps me a lot. I love to relax. I love that feeling, the way it makes my body feel, all my injuries. But when I couldn't afford it, that just wasn't the way. So then I started growing it in the closet with this very weak dollar store light, and it worked. But I would only get like off of a couple plants, I'd get like I don't know an ounce and a half. But it was fun. Good times, good times. Um, let's see, Mr. Carlson, welcome in, and thanks for telling everybody to smash the likes. And thanks for being in Town Center for 6+ months with the XP Predictor. I love this conversation, but we got to continue. Bitcoin is on the verge of losing 101,000. Got rejected at the 104, which means it's on its very clear pattern trajectory down to that 99.95 or 559. And then it's down here. We've got this FEG that I know Nick knows. I know. I know Nick knows. I know Scotty Trades knows. We got the fair value gap, not to be confused with the CME, which is from the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, and also not to be confused from the CME futures, that it's not an actual futures contract like on the crypto exchanges. That's a USD. That's a perpetual futures contract. These are all different. So it's good to be here every day. Right here is that FVG right around 92,000 and some change. It's not going to be 100% accurate, but I'm going to put it in the middle of 92. Somewhere around here. Now, the problem is, if this is a rising wedge that we can potentially break down, hear me out. Hear me out. I know it's hard. We would break down out of this rising wedge if we lose 99,559. Do you know what the technical target is out of this rising wedge? Do we know what the target is? It's going to put you back at the back test right about here. And what would that do to the market? Oh, boy. Unless we're ready to get off of Bitcoin's nuts, which I don't know if we are. We better hope we are if this plays out. Let's get rid of this. Oh, that was my arrow. Oh, buddy. I mean, you're talking about a significant fallout if this happens. And we can even tighten this pattern so that we can do it more like this. But I'm telling you, this would be a substantial fallout. We can even do it like this, so it's the opposite way here. Since we're going that way with the pattern. Then we'll straighten it out. It's about the width. I mean, that's a I'm just telling you, we would end up the technical, and oh, there's my 92,411 from before. So I was pretty close. The technical target out of here would bring you, and here's the ironic part. If we're talking about a handle formation that was actually here for Bitcoin, you can put it however you want. I just did it so you can see the length like this. The technical backtest has never happened. So if we fall outside of a rising wedge, this is the issue right now. The entire crypto market could go kersplat, like kersplat. When I say, I mean kersplat. Mr. Euler, yep. CFL at 250 watts. I remember those. I did okay with mine this year. I had the one plant that was left outside after it got destroyed by peasants, my animal friends that are my own fault because I like to feed them. But I saved one of them, and then ended up doing about, just on the one plant, it was 8, 9, 10. I think it was between 8 and 10 ounces. So, I mean, it did pretty well. It's drying now. I've had it drying for a couple weeks. So I was pretty happy about that. Looks about right. I take a straight line up and down from the apex and then place it to the projected place. Yeah, I short ordered it. Obviously, I could do it from up here and make the entire length of it, but I kind of short ordered it and short armed it from where it's at, Scotty, just to illuminate the fact if we did break down here, it's not 92 we're targeting. The technical target, breaking down out of what, now we could argue if this is an ascending triangle or an ascending wedge. I think it's a rising wedge, which we articulated in the smaller version of it earlier. But this is the big, if we lose 99,559, well, I don't think there's anything to block us from 92.4. And then can we really hold there? We've talked about the fact that maybe instead of a rising wedge, maybe if it comes down here, and this is basically hope over anything else, is that maybe it would form something like that instead and it could stay within and then it would be an ascending pattern. But that's just hope amongst hope. So then if it comes to 92.4, you're hoping that it doesn't get back tested on the way. So we've got a lot to deal with. So I said yesterday, if you're looking for a long-term leverage trade, you better hope $2.37 hold. You can take the initial ride out, but you got to watch that 255 because if it didn't break there, we're coming back, and that's what happened. So now some people bought right at this spot yesterday. Some people bought a little bit lower at 238. I mean, you're coming close to that make it or break it point. Really what you wanted to do, if you bought it before the breakout and it got rejected near 255, that's where you wanted to sell. And then you wanted to come back and rebuy in a leverage scenario or a swing trade for the back test at 237 and some change. That's why I was talking about that so much yesterday in the second live. Like, hey, remember this back test. Joseph says, I burned all 10 plants in my fire pit. There was no saving them. Bud rot was, oh yeah, that's a big problem. That can be a big problem, the bud rot, especially if you're in a climate like mine, when you start to get a lot of moisture at night, when it gets closer to November and late October. You got to be very careful with all rain because it's not as sunny. The sun angle, oh man, there's a big problem. You got those, you get spider mites that'll come out of nowhere, which I used to deal with when it was ingrown in the house. Sometimes you get stuff outside that's nasty. But Gazowitz has built the greenhouse and I'm sleeping in it with my trees on the beach, listening to Tom, living the dream. That is the dream, Gazo. Gazo, that's the dream. Oh, that is awesome. Got the best green crack. Hey, if anybody wants to send me any cannabis, and it's happened before, believe it or not, I've gotten it through the postal mail from somebody on the audience. It's been a few years. But here's, if anybody ever wants to send me anything, it's been a long time since anybody sent me anything, to be honest with you, years. People used to send me stuff on occasion. Nothing lately. I guess I don't hit the point anymore. Or maybe people just think I'm we're too far along in the process now to want to share stuff. But if you want to send me something, send me an email. It's strutrugali@gmail.com. That's STRUTRUGALI@gmail.com. That's strutrugali@gmail.com, not strutrugali.com. Strutrugali@gmail.com. Here, I'll reshare it. That's strutrugali@gmail.com. And I'm not just talking about cannabis. If you want to send anything, you want to send. I've had people that are veterans at war who've had been recognized by their local governments, not just the USA, and they've sent me their cool like patches and things like that. I've had people send me turtles and gold and silver as a thank, or well, not gold, but silver bullion. I've had people send me a few different things, and I save it all in a safe. I save it all. They're my most prized possessions that people send me. It's crazy. And that was the most memorable one. Somebody sent me, and I don't want to say who, sent me a journal of like their life and just the escalation and things that were happening within the world, and just it's all these facts and from their life going on, but it teaches me stuff from the last 65 years that I wouldn't have known. You know, you get to see people's real words, so that's very precious to me. I've read through that journal a few times. That person knows who they are, but I don't like to talk about the people who send me stuff. But yeah, it's I've got some really cool stuff that's in the vault. That's in the vault. Oh man, in the great vault. Somebody sent me there's just so much cool stuff. Honestly. But look, this is what we're talking about right now. Look at this. Look at XRP. Would you just look at this? How they trap people overnight, and then when we wake up in the morning, it's amazing in the USA. Just give it all back. Just get it all back. Oh yeah, I would encourage you guys if you ever want to send little T something, forget about me. He would love it. The turtle, cars. Oh, he would love the turtle too. Just anything. If you want to send T something, if you think there's something that can help T, if you want to send him something because you know he's nonverbal or because he's autistic and you think there's something he could use, send it. Send me an email, and if I know who you are, I'll give you my address. That's the caveat, though. I've got to trust you. I trust a lot of you. But look, with Lania, we talked about it yesterday. I said I am not convinced that this is not a big fake out and we're not getting rejected here in what looks like a rising little pattern that's kind of scary. And we're coming to 009. I said I'm not convinced. I'm not chasing. I want to see if this is what's happening because it seems odd that we would break out of such a long channel, break out back and now push up in the rising fashion and then not come back down and back test. And I could argue that it formed maybe a little bit of a wider channel here, so it's still within. Okay. But the first alert system was telling us, hey, we might have a problem here. So let's just give us some grace here. And now we look at that 0.1232, right? So that's what we look at. I'm not convinced that this isn't going to break down. I think it might. That daily time frame is everything to me right now. It's so overbought. The weekly is going to come online soon. It's soon. We're going to get a weekly reading here soon. It's not here yet. But it looks like to me, Lania, if we can come back down, and this would be my next target. If we break down 1229 and we head down to 009, that's where I'm going to re-enter the copy trade after selling for a small profit. Because we were way down. Remember, we wrote it way down. We're down $400 or $500 and we came up. And we ended up being up $40, $30. I don't remember, 28. I don't actually remember. But now it gives us an opportunity to make the market force us in. We can make the market our bitch now. And then if we come back down at 0.009, oh man, if this breaks down, that's why I still see a possibility that the market could break down here. But again, that channel, if it holds, you could have an opportunity at 1229 if this holds. That's why I want it's actually a little bit higher. Not much, but it's a little bit higher. 1238 could be an opportunity, and then he buys support. So resistance, buy support until the structure either breaks down or breaks out. So you'd buy support, so resistance, 2 down, correct, and around to support, so resistance. Now it's coming around. Now what's it going to do here? Technically you have up to 1, down to 2, up to 3, down to. So I don't know. We'll see. But I suspect, if this breaks down, it's not going to be, well, we already can, I can tell you that right now. If this breaks down, this won't be pretty. It'll come down under a penny more than likely. You're looking at a 35% drop or 30% drop or so on and so forth. Poppy Lou bullish divergence on XRP in the 15-minute. Those are going to be very hard time frames to read right now. We also have in the 4 hourly, I know the 15, but we have a bearish engulfing candle in the 4 hourly. And we have a, looks like a bearish cross just happening in the stochastic in the 4 hourly. That's pretty bearish here for the next candle or two. Hourly, we're clearing out nicely back into oversold. 2 hourly's still got a long ways. So we've got plenty of opportunity to come back and back test this. I mean, plenty of opportunity. I would be paying very close attention to this chart. Very close attention. And just see how we back test this range. I would pay some serious attention. We got a beautiful inverse. I'm being honest. We got beautiful inverse head and shoulder setup if this holds. I can even argue that we formed another inverse head and shoulders, left shoulder, head, right shoulder. If it bounced down, bounced out. Very creatively on the inverse right shoulder. And just this part of the pattern, you can see clearly an inverse pattern. So I'm not convinced 100% we're just breaking down here. I would love to see us fill this megaphone out, whether bullish or bearish. I would love to see us fill this out in some way like this. And then we decide. So, but yeah, that's what I got. I'm going to go back out in the living room. Scarlett just got out from school. Tea's up. Julie's here, so I want to make sure that I'm helping out a little bit. Be blessed, everybody. We'll be back this afternoon. Make sure you go to the video description below and our pinned comment to this very live. Easiest way for me to show you is just to show you. So, in the comments to the right, did I put pinned comments on here today? No, I did not. Okay, so let me do it right now. So, in the pinned comments, you can join the exchanges that I always talk about. I'm going to do a quick analysis on XLM and XDC before I leave as well. There won't be a single live now that I don't talk about those two, believe it or not. Even if it's just a small token or a small talk. So the TOOBIT is where you can copy trade me. I would definitely get that set up for Linnea for if we do have that drop down. There's also, I trade my Epic on there. There's a bunch of stuff on there that you can trade. It's like my new BITUNIX. BITUNIX, I still, as you know, will do leverage from time to time. I keep a certain amount there. But TOOBIT is to me, it's the new up and comer here because they have more expansion into the USA, more viability in the USA, and they moved into New York, which is a big deal. So no KYC, worldwide exchange. So, and the fees are dirt cheap. WEEX I like to use for my IOTA. Obviously, we found out that they also have DAG on there as well now in spot. So obviously, that's a great thing to trade on there as well. And then BITUNIX, I would still consider, I do my XPR spot there when I hold it. Right now, I am not actively in it. But that's where I buy it. And then I like to do my leverage trading, usually through BITUNIX, just because I don't want to keep my leverage trading with my copy trading setup, with the community, and with some of the other spot I hold. So I'd rather just do it on BITUNIX until I can't. I do it. Yeah. So anyhow, so that's that. Those are all no KYC exchanges with the cheapest fees you'll find, period. If I had to choose one, I would do TOOBIT on top right now. WEEX for the spot positioning with IOTA and things like that. And then BITUNIX for the XPR. And obviously, if you're a futures trader, the fees are dirt cheap. But you have to obviously guard your own portfolio. So that's why those are on there. It's also going to be in the comments of the video when this is released. And now XLM sitting up 1/4%. It's tried to have a artificial short-term move, but it failed the short-term back test. But we can obviously make this a little bit expansive. This could be expansion or but anyhow, it has this what looked like an inverse pattern. If this fails and we lose 27.3, simply we just come to 25.9. If XRP is going to 237, can I see this happening? Yes. And it's just, this is part of the problem. We need to hold this back test at 28.1. Otherwise, we're not ready to go up and we're going to rotate back down. And based on market conditions, the way Bitcoin is, if Bitcoin does come back down to that 99K area, we're not going to have much of a choice here. So just be cautious. Be cautious and pay attention to this very deeply. And then XDC down 1/4 got rejected right here. So hopefully next Wednesday we'll get a cheaper buy. Yesterday we got somewhere around here at 5.6 something, 5.7 in this area. So right about where it's at now, but we're hopefully next Wednesday we'll get a much better deal. First buy together we got 5.1 and 5.6-ish. Then we'll see what happens here. But this is just something that I'm doing until XR or XTC it's 10 cents. And then the only way I would sell the rebuy at 2.8 or 2.78 would be as if we broke down 4.75 and I felt like we were going to break down the next 40% or so. Then I would get rid of it and rebuy it all back at the bottom. Otherwise, I'm buying this entire progressive formation. I say up to 10 cents, but I may stop it when it gets over 7.5 because once we get out into that area, I get uncomfortable. So maybe it's up to 7.5 cents. Maybe that's the better way of putting it. But I have the ability to do it until 10 cents, so, but more than likely 7.5 cents would be probably a cutoff point. And at least you got to pay attention to it. Below the 5.8, which opens up to 5.2. So, I mean, this is where we're at right now. It's where we're at right now. So we'll talk about this more. If we come back down, the support for a third hit on support would be right around 4.75. Be blessed, everybody. I hope this helped. I really, really hope this helped, and we'll see each other soon. I hope this actually helped you be less anxious, more positive, and you're able to see this right now. We started the live like this. I'm going to start the lives from now on like this, but today I'm going to end it in the same way. So be blessed, everybody. I appreciate all of you.
Sunny days, here again. Sunny days, here again. Sunny days, here again. Sunny days, here again. I wear glasses 'cause I'm so cool. I can predict the charts. Sunny